Hey, everybody, welcome to the Integrity Restored podcast. I'm Jim O'Day, your host, and I am so blessed to be joined today by a friend of mine, Alejandro Monteverde, the writer and director of the incredible movie Sound of Freedom. We're going to talk about this movie. We're going to talk about why it needed to happen today. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my experience yesterday. I sat in that movie theater and I had tears in my eyes and I had anger in my heart. And I walked out of that movie theater and I had a tremendous amount of hope because this movie showed me if one good person stands up, what they can do. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if we all stand up, what we can do. Alejandro, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for going to watch the movie and supporting this movement.
Oh, absolutely. You know, here in our work at Integrity Restored, we're dealing with darkness every day. And one of the things I've learned when we're dealing with pornography addiction or sex addiction is that in order to combat the darkness, you must bring it into the light. We must bring these issues into the light. And that's what this movie, Sound of Freedom, ladies and gentlemen, is doing. You must go see it. When we send out the email about this podcast tomorrow, when we send out all the social media, it's going to have links. If you can't afford a ticket, you can still get one for free. There's a bunch of donors who have gotten together and made sure that money is not an obstacle to go see this movie. So if you can't afford it, you can get one. If you can afford it, please consider paying it forward and buying a ticket for someone else who maybe can't financially do it. Everybody in your family, in your neighborhood, in your company, in your church needs to see this movie. So Alejandro, I've got to ask you, this is an incredible story of Tim Ballard, who is a Homeland Security agent who left the agency to go rescue children. And you were the writer and director on this film. When you first saw this script and you first read these ideas, what did you think?
Well, I wrote the script.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I wrote the script. And for me, there's two kinds of movies, the ones that I want to make and the ones that I'm called to make. This was a calling. Around 7 or 8 years ago, I was late at night. I came home. This is before, Netflix and iPads and all that. It was when Netflix, you still get it on a DVD, right? So yeah. I used to record, all the news reports on different subjects. And I don't know which channel it was, but I saw a news report on child trafficking for the first time. And it shook my soul. And I couldn't sleep that night. I woke up the next day and I felt the calling. I said, I have to do something about this. And I started writing. I called my co-writer who co-wrote the movie with me, Rod Barr. And we started exploring and we created a fictional story, completely fictional. We were in it for almost 2 months. And then I get a phone call from the producer and said, have you started writing the screenplay? I say, not yet. And he says, well, stop. I want you to meet Tim Ballard. And it was when I met Tim Ballard that I realized that his story was better than fiction. And that's when we partnered up and we started writing this biopic. And it's been a journey. It's been an odyssey. It's been an odyssey to darkness. But what I want to tell the audience, and you saw the film, it's an odyssey to the heart of darkness on a vehicle of hope. So
Amen.
There's hope. It's a movie that will entertain you and leave you inspired.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not sometimes when we think of these movies with a really strong message of hope, we think, well, there's not going to be such great quality, right? This movie, the quality is as impressive as anything you've ever watched. The acting is top-notch. The cinematography is unbelievable. The script is fantastic. there's no reason not to go see this movie. In fact, there's every reason to go see it. One of the things here at Integrity Restored we talk about all the time is that you can't help yourself or someone else if you're not educated. This movie is the start of your education, ladies and gentlemen, on what's going on all around us. I read a stat when I came home last night that 27% of all humans trafficked are children. Now, that may be low, in my opinion, because here in the United States, many children who are trafficked, unfortunately, in my work here, I've spoken to them, they're trafficked by family.
Yeah.
By uncles, by aunts, by cousins, by sometimes their own parents in horrible drug addicted situations. And so a lot of those don't get reported as the same trafficking. But if it's 1% of kids, it's too much. So please, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Sound of Freedom is the name of the movie. You have to go see it. So my next question, Alejandro, is probably one you've gotten asked a lot. Why now? Why did you make this movie now?
Well, I didn't make it now. That's the interesting part. It's there was a lot of challenges on this film, all the way from writing the script to the movie getting funded, and it was a risky film because of the challenges of how do you market a movie about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it would be way riskier not to make this movie. So from my end, all I had to do was continue to push, not knowing if we were going to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And then when we finished the movie like 3 years ago, and the movie was just parked.
Oh.
And we didn't find the right partner to distribute the film. Then COVID hit. Then I went to shoot another film. I told my new movie was going to come out first than this one. We didn't know what was happening with this film. And all of a sudden, everything came together. And when I look back into retrospective, then we realized this is a perfect time. If the movie would have come out 3 years ago, the challenges wouldn't be completely bigger than today. And at least today, people are ready to talk about this and to digest it because they're more familiar with the subject matter. Yep. So it's you never know what's happening until you look back. That's the easiest ways to know, when there's this divine orchestration happening. And you can only see it when you look back, or, which I'm not there yet, when you're fully living the present, which is very difficult to just be here. But that's another way to see, this orchestration. We're always 1 second ahead of ourselves.
So, my brother, if you figure that out, I beg you, teach me, because I haven't figured it out either.
Yeah.
When we think about this issue, the broader issue, before we get back to the movie, when we think about this issue, it's something that makes people so uncomfortable. And we oftentimes stick our head in the sands, but we need to be aware this is happening all around us, in every country on the globe. And it doesn't matter, rich, poor, black, white, as Christian, atheist, this is happening all around the world. Yeah. And we might be walking right by these children.
Yeah.
So when you were doing your writing and your conversations with Tim, and at least the way Jim Caviezel plays him in the movie, it's a very deep character. He has this incredible emotional sensitivity, but he's also a tough guy. He's not afraid.
Yeah.
Is that how you saw Tim? Did Jim play him just that way?
One of the challenges that I was faced with is, when you're creating a hero's journey, a hero's story, heroic character, you always also want to figure out the flaws to make the character human, right? And I was trying to find what would be the human flaw of the character. And that was a challenge. And finally, I saw one, which was this heaviness, this darkness was eating him alive to the point that sometimes he couldn't even, go on. He was so weighted down, and the way to deal with this was by quitting his job and going. And that's one of the things, and risking his life and selling his house and losing everything in order to go rescue these children. And
Wow.
that in itself, it's what we decided to dive in his journey. So for sure, this is an origin story. It's the beginning of Tim Baller's journey. So it is definitely a film for people to come and also enjoy it. Even though it's an odyssey into the heart of darkness, again, we're going on a vehicle that is hope. It's hopeful.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
it is a, you know, we respected the format, which is magical. When you go see a movie, you want to get lost in the magic, and you're still gonna happen. That's still gonna happen to you. It's not a film where you're gonna be calm and the film is gonna hit you over the head of with all this heaviness. No, you're gonna be able to digest it. And yes, the film leaves you in a state of reflection at the end of
Mm.
the film, but not in a negative, dark way. It actually, for what my little research I've done with seeing the audiences, they actually feel inspired to do
Amen.
something about it.
We are going to get to that in a minute, but I want to switch gears. How long are you and your beautiful bride Allie married now?
17 years.
17 years. Okay,
Yeah,
so
faster than I wanted to.
I know that, brother. I will celebrate 35 years in
Oh wow!
September,
Congratulations.
and thank you, thank you. And your wife had a role in this movie, and you were her director. And I've learned in 35 years of marriage, it's not too good to direct your wife. So how'd that work out?
Well, she had a big role in this film, not just on the screen. For her to come on this journey and support, knowing the challenges of that we were going to have with this subject. From
Yeah,
this we knew it was from the beginning. There was all these blocks on the road. So by her playing that role and supporting, being on set was very easy.
right.
She was also in Bella, and
I know. I'm only joking.
yeah.
I'm teasing.
So but it's definitely, within the joke it does, because when we are in there, we both are professionals, and we're literally, I'm the director and she's an actress, and we kind of
Yeah,
leave our relationship in outside the set. So but it's always
right.
a blessing to work with her, and I wish we could have done more often, but we have kids, so if I'm on set, she's with the kids, and vice versa. When she
Vice
goes on
versa.
tour,
Yeah,
I stay with the kids.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I understand. And I think you said something so important, and I want my audience to listen to that again. Your wife supported you on this incredibly risky, problematic journey that was a call on your heart, and she supported you through that.
Yes.
That's so important, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
As spouses, that's what we're called to do to each other.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, you may be called to support her on a journey that's risky for another reason and
Yeah.
another project that she's getting involved in. That's what we're called to do. And,
Yeah.
and I just think that's beautiful. And even in the movie, Tim Ballard's wife was a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
resource and strength of support for him to
Yeah.
go and do what he was able to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So important. Um, one of the things that people are when I walked out of the movie theater, I was just talking to a bunch of the people that were standing outside before I called you guys. Um, everybody wants to do something and wants to know, what can we do? So the first thing I said is just what Jim Caviezel said at the end of the meeting. Hey, let's buy some tickets and make sure other people can get there. And we'll put all that information in our show notes for people listening to this. But Alejandro, brother, what else can we do?
Well, I feel that's such a personal calling for everybody. I think right now, what's the immediate, what's, going to the present, what can we do today? And right now, just by creating awareness and people watching this film, what's going to happen is this communication, this conversation about this taboo comes on the foreground. It becomes a priority. You know, we have the resources to protect the children. And when for me, I'm not in politics, but I do think that children should not have nationality. Just like we'll protect the animals, or the forest. We don't say this particular from animal from this country. It's we protect the animals. I feel children should be a priority above all. And
Amen.
they should be protected no matter of the nationality. If we find out that children are being kidnapped and raped in other parts of the world, they should be protected by the world. So then people will think twice before they harm a child. So I do think that that's kind of conversation, it's what needs to start happening. And that's what this film really taps in a subtextual way, is for Tim's character. I'm sorry, Tim Ball. Jim, I confuse him. They
They
Jim
become one.
Caviezel. Yeah, sometimes I like to still continue to call Jim Caviezel Timoteo.
That's
So
so funny.
it's just, but he had to leave everything here. He had to quit his job because he was a U.S. federal agent, and he couldn't go. He was limited by the children's nationality, and he had to leave his job and leave everything. And here we are. For me, this has been a collective call that we all getting. What can we do? And I do feel that call is what will create change. So right now is, what can you do today? It's literally tell as much people as possible to come see the film, because the result of watching this film is to talk about this. And this conversation is what, awareness leads to change.
Amen. Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to mention to the folks is that incredibly, this movie launched on July 4th, and I couldn't get in on July 4th. Every show was sold out, so I went yesterday on the 5th. But this movie is actually outperforming the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. I can imagine. I can imagine that many people in Hollywood are not too happy about that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I can just speak for myself. I have never been in this situation in my career. I always feel like, one of my mentors told me one day, because he realized, I was getting tired. It's like, you do all this work and, your movies are not being shown. And, I was doing my second film. I had finished it. And this movie was just, parked. And, just to be here, he told me one day, he said, look, it's like blowing a balloon, and you blow in your whole life. And then when you feel you're out of air and you're kind of about to give up, all of a sudden the balloon starts to fly and you go for the ride. And he told me that before we're here today. He told me that, I think a year ago. And that's what right now is like, wow, to see the balloon on the air. It's just, I'm just so excited and grateful for all audiences, So I
think it's
obviously I want them, their continuing support to continue to come.
And it's so important, ladies and gentlemen. Please listen to this. This weekend coming up, we have to flood these movie theaters. The next 3 weeks are incredibly important. There's other movies coming out. This movie needs to stay on the big screen. Jim Caviezel talks about it, the trailer at the end of the movie. This movie needs to stay on the big screen, and we can make that happen. If you go to angelstudios.com/tickets, you can buy tickets for the movie. You can donate tickets for other people to go to the movie. Or if you can't afford it, you can get yourself a free ticket. There's no reason everybody who's listening right now should not be on angelstudios.com today getting tickets to an upcoming show for this movie. The final thing I wanted to talk to you about. So here at Integrity Restored, we deal with pornography and sexual addiction, and we focus on what we consider to be the 3 pillars of healing: the strong science, the therapy, the psychology, what's happening in your brain; the spiritual life, frequent reception of the sacraments and spiritual direction; and then finally, community and relationships. When you made this movie, Alejandro, I'm sure you didn't think about, or maybe you did, the spiritual battle that creating a movie like this is going to raise up in your life and the life of your loved ones. And so, how are you, when people are recovering from porn addiction or sex addiction, the spiritual attacks are rough. How are you dealing with that, you and your family?
For me, again, faith, it's such a personal journey that everybody, navigates with their own, because all our lives are completely different, right? We all
Absolutely.
have complete different, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So for me, around 5 years ago, I started a daily meditation. I don't miss a day for the last 5 years.
Praise
And
God.
that empowered me to continue on the spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is where someone said that if we could actually see what's happening at a spiritual level, it makes every war like a joke.
Yep.
The warfare that is going on, spiritual warfare. And for me, what I can say is, we all have our darknesses, that we have to battle. And one of the greatest darkness that we have as human beings, I dare to say, it's our own egos.
Mm.
It's if we lived our lives according to our ego, we will end up in a destructive environment. But
No
if by the
question.
power of our own spirits defeat those desires, then you can continue on. And for me, it's every morning waking up and clearing, quieting the mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mind never stops chatting, and the thoughts we don't create. We think we create thoughts. Yes, you can, if you have to be consciously to create the thoughts, but you can't stop thinking. And sometimes those thoughts just pop on you, and
Absolutely.
those thoughts can lead to addictions. It can lead to all kinds of things. If you think about it, every suicide in the world, it's your own self telling you kill yourself. Think about how
Yes.
destructive the mind can be. So if a disordered mind leads to a disordered life and chaotic life, and that's
Yes.
that's for me. I was faced around 5-6 years ago with a massive darkness. A tragic loss of my father and my brother, and I couldn't get up. And that's when I said, you, the only way if I can actually survive this is if it has to be another power, because physically I
Yeah.
couldn't. And that was the journey of healing, and it's one thing led to another, because this journey that I had begun around 5-6 years ago, it has become, I don't know how I was able to survive all those other years. I was like, how did I live before? It's crazy.
Without this. Yeah.
Yes, and I will wake up with a disordered mind, and obviously that's the stress and the
Yeah.
feeling down sometimes, because it's all over the place. If you wake up every morning, it's kind of, let all the past anxieties and everything out, and disempower this voice that can lead to destruction.
Absolutely. And scripture tells us, don't worry about yesterday, it's gone. Don't worry about tomorrow, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But right now,
Yes.
today,
That's all we have.
that's all we have. My brother, this has been an incredible conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, again, angelstudios.com/tickets to get your tickets. Please, 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 ladies and gentlemen, I hardly ever ask you to do anything on my show. I am asking you to do this and go to Sound of Freedom website, share all their information on your social media, spread this far and wide. We can make a difference in the life of those children. Alejandro, my brother, thank you so much for what you're doing for this movie. My best to Ali and the family. God bless you always, brother.
Thank you.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom.
Felt good.
You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Sweet land of liberty.
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, you know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces.
And where my fathers died.
And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
Land of the Pilgrims'
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
What if this was your daughter?
So, she's gone.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Sound of Freedom is one of those films that can legitimately change this world. So we want to ignite a fire in audiences and open their eyes to the dark reality of millions of children that need our help. Let's make this film a historic event and the start, the end of child trafficking. Theaters across this country are already selling out. Pre-order your tickets today, and you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.